In this video, we are going to talk about top 10 weird trains in the world. So, before starting the video, please like this video, do subscribe and turn on the notification to our channel for future updates. Since the development of the first steam engine, trains have advanced considerably. There have been numerous train designs, some of which have had greater success than others. Here are some of the weirdest trains ever created. Number 10. Wuppertal Schwebebahn. The oldest electric train still in use today is the Wuppertal Schwebebahn. One of the most unusual trains in the world, it uses hanging cars. It was created by Eugen Langen, who wanted to sell it to Berlin. It opened its first track in 1901. It still serves 25 million passengers annually as a form of public transportation. It is hung roughly 12 meters over the river Wupper and travels along a track that is 13.3 kilometers long. The railroad eventually crosses the A46 freeway. It takes roughly 30 minutes to go the entire length of the track. It had a collision in November 2018 and had to be down for maintenance. It will return in August 2019. Number 9. General Motors Aerotrain. The automobile industry produced the General Motors Aerotrain in the 1950s. A number of railroad companies that desired a speedier train to entice back former passengers who had shifted to other modes of transportation supported it. The Aerotrain was not a novel concept. Simply joining several of their buses together, General Motors mounted them on a railway chassis. Even yet, the Aerotrain was quick and light, weighing less than half as much as standard steam locomotives when fully loaded. 2 prototypes were created by General Motors and tested by numerous railway operators. The train's engines were criticized by all of the drivers because they were unable to travel at their top speed or ascend hills. The train was also so light that passengers said the journey was similar to a bumpy truck. Number 8. Armored trains. During the American Civil War, Union General Joseph Hooker deployed nearly 20,000 soldiers on armored trains for the first time in combat operations. Initially, defensive armor was placed on the trains to safeguard the soldiers from ambushes. However, the armor and weapons on the vehicles eventually became more robust, including cannons, anti-aircraft guns, and machine guns. Armored trains frequently defeated enemy infantry and tanks. However, the trains were easy pickings for hostile aircraft, who could simply locate and eliminate them from the air. Additionally, their trails were susceptible to tampering by a lone individual. After World War II, more sophisticated military vehicles took the place of armored trains. However, there are rumors that the Russian military is preparing to send back armored trains to combat domestic militants who frequently assault the country's railway network. Number 7. Micheline railcar. The Micheline railcar is what you would anticipate if a passenger train and a passenger truck were to combine forces. André Micheline, the well-known tire producer, gave his engineers the order to come up with something to replace the obtrusive steel wheels of conventional trains, which is how the train got its start. It should come as no surprise that his engineers built a railway with tires made of rubber. If they suddenly started moving, they featured specific measures to prevent the train from derailing. Anyone who can operate a bus could operate the train without any special training because it resembled one so closely. Both France and the UK tested the Micheline railcar on their railway systems, but neither nation ever decided to utilize it because the trains were too expensive. For instance, a standard train only had 4 wheels, whereas the Micheline railcar needed 10 tires. The tires also required frequent replacement because they wore out so quickly. Number 6. Jean Bertin's Aerotrain. Jean Bertin's Aerotrain was the hovercraft of the train industry in the 1960s. The Aerotrain, which was funded by the French government to replace conventional trains, moved by inflating an air cushion over a concrete monorail. The train was speedy, smooth, light, and comfy. Its prototype was capable of 420 km/h speeds, 260 miles per hour. Its tracks were inexpensive and simple to build. The best part was that they required less accuracy and upkeep than standard rails. The potential train attracted interest from almost 20 nations. By the year 2000, Bertin bragged, it would be usable everywhere. However, the French government halted further development in 1974 after Bertin handed up his finished train because they feared it would undermine the nation's state-sponsored railway network. Bertin passed away a year later after being devastated by the government's choice. Number 5. Bennie Railplane. George Bennie created the Bennie Railplane in 1930. The train traveled on unique lines that Bennie intended to construct above ordinary railroad tracks to replace coal-powered steam engines. With the exception of its two propellers, which were driven by an engine, the train resembled more contemporary cable cars. The train traveled along its overhead tracks on top-mounted wheels. According to Bennie, the railplane could travel up to 190 km per hour, 120 miles per hour. However, the length of its experimental track prevented it from reaching such a high speed. Because Americans were still getting over the Great Depression and World War II was just around the way, Bennie had trouble finding investors for his train. Bennie sold his prototype rail track in 1957 for a fire sale price. He passed away a year later, bankrupt. Number 4. M-497 Black Beetle. The M-497, often known as the Black Beetle, was an experimental train constructed in the 1960s that used jet engines. New York Central Railroad, which intended to build rapid trains to entice commuters who had left its slower trains in favor of other modes of transportation, funded the project's development. A conventional passenger train called the Black Beetle was converted to run on B-36 bomber jet engines. After undergoing several tests, it eventually set a record speed of 295 km per hour, 185 miles per hour. For 40 years, no one has ever beaten this world record. However, because to the high cost of building and maintaining jet-powered trains, the New York Central Railroad halted further development of the vehicle. The jet engines were employed to create the first snowplow for railroad tracks in history once the carriage was put back into service. Number 3. Wagonway. Horses hauled trains on tracks made up the trains. Before steam-powered trains, there existed these trains. Their benefit was that they could move heavy loads with the same number of horses. These trains traveled on wooden rails prior to the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. The practice of placing a flat piece of iron on the tracks gradually spread. The wood rollers later needed to be replaced with iron wheels because this made them deteriorate more quickly. However, the wooden rails buckled beneath the weight of the carts because they were not sturdy enough. As a result, iron was used to rebuild the whole rail track. Number 2. Brennan Monorail. Louis Brennan created the electric-powered Brennan Monorail in the early 20th century. Given that it only had one pair of wheels and only traveled on one track, we may refer to it as the motorcycle of the train world. Even when it came to a stop, it did not topple. The train was stabilized by two gyroscopes to the point where, even if it derailed, it would likely stay upright and carry on traveling. In fact, Brennan developed the monorail to take the place of conventional trains, which frequently derailed when attempting fast turns. But only if the gyroscopes functioned properly would it be true. Brennan's monorail, sadly, was never used in place of conventional trains because it would have derailed and crashed catastrophically if even one of its gyroscopes had failed. The train could not pull additional carriages, thus it was also not cost-effective. Number 1. Schienenzeppelin. The Schienenzeppelin was a German attempt to construct an extremely quick train in 1931. An airplane engine linked to a sizable propeller at the back of the experimental train served as its power source. This train, which was lightweight and streamlined, tested at 225 km per hour, 140 miles per hour, breaking the previous record. For 23 years, this record remained unbroken. Because of worries that its propellers may gravely harm or even kill persons who stood close to the tracks at railway stations, the Schienenzeppelin never made it past the prototype stage. The train was unable to reverse course, tow additional coaches, or to maintain velocity to climb slopes due to the position of the propellers. Additionally, there were concerns about the ability of the era's railroad rails to withstand the strain of this train. When Germany stripped the Schienenzeppelin of her aluminum during World War II to make warplanes, the ship was destroyed. So, that's it for today's video. What are your thoughts on our video? Please let us know in comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear from me again, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification to our channel before you go. Thank you so much for watching.